So they were a no to begin with, they just were your friend and didn't want to tell you no. So we want to get that written list. If they say no to the written list, have them become a customer. If they say yes to the written list, then you're taking down that written list. And Joe Jones, how do you know Joe? Well, Joe, I'm in the choir at church and Joe's the choir leader. So all of a sudden you're saying, okay, this is a good person of influence. Who else do you know? Bobby. Bobby who? Well, I'm not really sure Bobby's last name, but I always wave to him. He's the guy that cuts the grass at the house across the street. Okay, so Bobby the landscaper, and you're going to write that down. And you're going to get a phone number if you can get a phone number. And you want to make as big a written list as you can, and you want to make it right then and there. Now, sometimes you'll be at a lunch, and they just don't have time to do it right then and there. And so in that lunch meeting, what you're going to do is you're going to set another appointment, and you're going to methodically track that 5 to 7 hours, because remember, you asked Mary for that 5 to 7 hour commitment. So let's just assume as we progress through this, the people that you personally know that are going to go on your first level are going to be your foundation level. Okay, and the stronger your foundation is, just like the building that you're sitting in right now, if the rebar wasn't put in the concrete, the foundation wasn't set, all the plumbing stubbed up properly, what would happen is the walls would start to crack and your building would fall apart. So you always want to recruit up in your sphere of influence, not down in your sphere of influence. And so what you're going to do with Mary is you're going to get the written list, and then the first people you're going to call and identify are the people that are the strongest people in Mary's sphere of influence. They're the doctors, they're the attorneys, they're the guy who owns an insurance agency or the real estate agent, somebody that has a big Rolodex. Okay, and then you're going to help Mary. Sometimes Mary's comfortable calling them, and you can just give them the 4 questions and the script, which is available on the website under training and then in the documents. And other times, what's going to happen is that Mary's going to need you to be on the phone with her. She's going to need a little hand holding. If Mary gives you the written list, what's going to happen is that from that written list, what you're going to do is you're going to do a little hand holding if she needs it, and you're going to call the people. So you're going to coach Mary to say, hey Mary, what I want you to do, and if you're with her, she can hand you the phone. If not, it's typically done on a 3-way call, so it's not something that you've got to go drive all the way across town to do. So you're going to say, okay, Mary, what I want you to do is I want you to call up John. I want you to ask him if he has a little bit of time, and immediately I want you to tell him that you have a business partner on the phone by the name of Brian McClure. So you're going to call up Mary, and you're going to coach Mary a little bit about what to say. So you're going to call up, we're going to get on the phone together, and we're going to 3-way into your friend Joe. And so we're going to call up Joe, and you're going to say, hey Joe, it's Mary, how you doing? Doing great. Hey, have you got a couple of minutes? Yeah, sure do. What do you need? Well, listen, I just wanted to let you know that I've got a business partner of mine, Brian McClure, on the phone, who's engaged in a business here in Dallas or here in Chicago or here in New York or wherever you are. And I found it really, really intriguing. And the first person I thought about that I thought would be really, really good at it would be you. We're only going to take a couple of minutes of your time. I want to introduce you to Brian. Brian, this is Joe. Joe, this is Brian. So all Mary does the introduction, and then you're going to immediately go into the 4 questions, because that's what you want Mary to do. So you're not going to go into, oh, Mary tells me that you're the head of the choir. You could do a little groundbreaking like that if you want to, but you're going to say to Joe, you're going to say, Joe, let me ask you a couple of questions. What do you know about energy deregulation here in Texas? Well, not much. Why do you ask? Well, Mary and I are, I'm engaged in that industry, and it kind of goes like this. How many people do you know use electricity in their house? Well, everybody. If nothing changed, would they rather pay less or more? Less. And, so it's just the same question. Say, well, I've shown Mary a way that she feels confident she can make an awful lot of money, residual income, off of the usage of the electricity of the people that she knows. And what we're calling you about is, would it be worth about 20 minutes of your time to look at a couple of videos on the internet if we could show you a way you could make an awful lot of money earning a residual income off of public utility unconsciously purchased, habitually used? In other words, Joe, every time somebody turned on their light switch that every time they ran their air conditioner, next month, next year, 5 years from now, as long as they stayed on the service, you would get a residual income. Would that be worth about 20 minutes of your time? Yes. We're going to set the commitment for the time, And then after we set the commitment for the time, we're going to call back. And if Mary's not available, that's okay, but it's preferable to have Mary on that three-way call. We're going to call Mary back. We're going to call Joe back with Mary on the line. Did that make sense to you? Does that mean you have, does that mean you're ready to get started, or do you have a few more questions? And then Joe can say yes, no, or maybe. And it starts all over again. Let's say Joe says maybe. Joe said, we're 5 to 7 hours of your time. If I did most of the work, just like I'm working with Mary, to call a few people that you know to see if you have an interest. And Joe, wouldn't you agree that if we called 15 people and a couple of them said yes, it's probably something you should do? And if we called 15 people and they all said no, it's probably something you shouldn't do? Well, yeah, I'd agree with that. Well, Joe, as you watch that video, who's the first person you thought of that was aggressive, that was interested in making a lot of money, or even somebody who's looking to save some money? So I'm going right back to the fundamental. Now I'm working my second level, which is my level of duplication. So now Mary's being trained, even though she's not in the business, on how to approach people, prospect people. She's hearing it, and people learn through repetition. She's hearing it over and over and over and over and over again. And because we're not just calling Joe, we're calling Stu, and we're calling this one, and we're calling that one for Mary, because we got 15 people to talk to. But for this example purposes, let's say Joe says maybe, and off his written list, we do the same process with Sue. And Sue says maybe, and we do the same process with Bob. And then Bob says maybe, and we do the same process with Beth. So now we're all the way down on our fifth level. And the reason we call that third level decentralization is because at that point you're decentralized as the issue on who you are. So you and Mary work together at the post office. Joe is the choir director at church, and Sue is somebody else is in the choir. Well, at that point, Sue does not know that Brian works at the post office with Mary. Okay, all Sue knows is that when I get on a three-way call, that I'm an expert. Okay, so I'm going to three-way Sue into somebody else. I might even three-way Joe into somebody else. But if I'm experienced in the business, by the time I get down to Sue, Bob, and Beth, what happens is I can do the three-way calls myself. So it's not to burden your upline with the three-way call. You just do the three-way call to somebody that they don't know. And again, it's just the psychology of it. So that's the key. So let's say we go through all that, and Beth just thinks this is a glove fit. Says, I'm in. Yes. And notice that the percentage of yeses increases the more you become decentralized as the issue. So as you go further down the written list, the probability of somebody saying yes to you is higher. So Mary says yes, or maybe we've talked to 10 people down there that people have brought to people who brought to people, and all of a sudden there's 2 or 3 people down on that level that say yes.